Hello, this is Jimmy. We're back for another episode of Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. First, we have U.S. atheist inmate can't be forced into substance abuse program. The judge rules from TheGuardian.com, from posted by Ninja Lover, and I would agree with that. I don't think someone should be forced into a program they don't want to be forced into. I would agree, as long as they're not actively violating the NAP. So that's my thought there. Then we have Judge rules highway patrols Kansas two-step tactic is illegal from Fox4KC.com by Ninja Lover. And I would agree that, a lot of police tactics are illegal, but they justify them because, they're the ones who ultimately say they have the monopoly over force. So they're the ones who can make the rule. That's why I don't think we should have anyone have a monopoly on force. We should let the people have a monopoly on force and use it as they see fit. If someone else has a problem with it, they should have the ability to stop them. It's the people should have the monopoly on force, not the state or the police. And we have Judge orders Florida to stop putting children in nursing homes from TheGuardian.com by Ninja Lover. I personally think if children want to go into nursing homes, I think they should be able to, but I don't think they should be forced into there. So I guess I would agree there. I don't think anyone should be forced into a home they don't want to go to. Then we have fascinating to watch a corporate press article instill panic about Spain's ultranationalist Vox party as their opposed to exports/imports want to end all immigration by describing their government agenda and Extremadura has been of helping farmers grow strawberries. And so from Michael Mallison Twitter, I posted that and I said, strawberries are fascist now, I guess. Everything really is a fascist dog whistle these days. It's all, if you disagree at all, you're just going to be labeled a fascist, a Nazi, a QAnon. So that's why I don't really let those terms get to me. Then we have the case of the Colorado River's missing water from HCN.org by Ninja Lover. And let's see, so I think that's, I would blame the government. I just blame the government for everything, so probably some government thing. I don't know. I don't know why it's snow melts, but doesn't end up in the river for some reason. Probably, the government probably diverted it somewhere. I don't know. I always just say it's probably the government. Then we have Fox News is controlled opposition from Tim Pool on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, what did I say? I said, most things that present as right-leaning are, I would say. I think Fox News is probably controlled opposition, the GOP is probably controlled opposition, Daily Wire is probably controlled opposition. Yeah. And, so I think, the thing is that the government, anyone, the Republicans and Fox News and the Daily Wire, they're all just where the Dems were like 10 years ago. So it's just, and that's how they're controlled opposition, I would say. Then we have the problem with these bipartisan calls for action is that no one ever means them when the chips are down. Thankful style of Nancy Pelosi or some working class guy in Arkansas. Everyone knows it from Aaron McIntyre on Twitter, and I posted that. Yeah, that was him replying to Senk's a bipartisan call from Senk Uyghur of the Young Turks, and who said, "Imagine if the right wing and left wing got together to fight corruption." I would say, yeah. I said personally, people always try and find like-minded individuals who they think are working in their best interests. Sadly, those really aren't around much, especially when it comes to Washington D.C. Washington D.C. They're all elites, and even the ones I really agree with, like Thomas Massie or Rand Paul, probably aren't really on my. I don't know if they're 100% on my side. So that's important to remember as well. That's why, it's important to not get all into this, but get into their parties. They're all elites, and that's important to remember. Then we have, was California ever a polite society? From Level Ad 3231 from their YouTube channel Gaslighters Anonymous. And I would say, I don't think anywhere's ever really been a polite society. People are mean, but California right now, they're really trying an experiment with where it's like it's almost near anarchic, and the people can get away with all the NAP violations they want as long as the government doesn't want to do anything because they don't want to be seen as being tough on crime, because that's that's the libs. They don't want to be tough on crime. And it's also the thing of the can't give the Californians is that there's so many regulations you can't really do anything without the government coming after you for it unless the government deems it appropriate. It's like Orrin McIntyre says, it's a narco-tyranny. You can do the homeless can do any tyranny they want when it comes to like stuff like shoplifting or jacking off by a store entrance, but you can't do anything if the government says no. So it's a system of tyranny where the government says some violence is good when it benefits us, but the other violence is bad when it goes against our narratives. Yeah, that's a lot of people these days. Violence is good when it supports us, but violence is bad when it goes against our narrative. See how people react to January 6th and George Floyd riots and vice versa. Then we have Pearls of Force Wine for September 23rd, 2023. That's by Stephen Pestas. That's from GoComics.com. I posted that. And that was The Adventures of Democracy Man. And he says, I just tried to vote, but somebody's gone through by and blacked out the party that each candidate belongs to. And Democracy Man said he did that. And but why would you do that? Well, now I don't know where to vote for. I'm Team Blue, and the other woman says, I'm on Team Red. Yes, but that's where there are no teams or parties that win or lose. Each of us simply votes for the person we think will do the best job for the country. And the blue guy says, well, you fascist right wing, left wing, and the red woman says, right wing, commie, liberal. And then Democracy Man says, Democracy Man away. And then the rat says, Democracy Man knows the bad situation when he sees it. And the pig and goat say, poor Democracy Man. So I said, real libertarian message from Pastas today. Most people care much more about the letter next to the name than if the candidate they're voting for is living, for example. See here, and that's how Tony DeLuca got reelected. It was the Pennsylvania State Legislature last year when he was dead, the only other candidate was the Living Green Party candidate, but they don't vote for her because she has a G next to her name. You don't want to support, and the people are extremely biased against third parties. Then, Incruente said, not particularly libertarian message that democracy works better when people aren't voting blindly. Libertarians can be just person everyone else. And I replied, democracy works. You're right, that message isn't very libertarian. I would agree that democracy isn't a very libertarian thing. It's simply mob rule and bullying other people to get what you want through if you have a majority. And just because the majority wants something doesn't make it correct. The majority said that the majority was okay with concentration camps in World War II. And internment camps over here in the U.S., so that's just what makes you think. It's just because the majority says something doesn't make it right. Then we have most Americans favor restrictions on false information, violent content online from Pew Research, and I posted that and I said, not good news now. Not good news, especially when people are going to be biased as what is false and or violent. Because once you justify removing anything you deem to be hate speech or misinformation, you can justify removing any dissent whatsoever. I think that's what we're slowly seeing as time moves on here in regards to the internet. Then we have What is Left Libertarianism from Chi-Town 20 from the New Left Libertarian subreddit. I'm not really too big on the left libertarianism, communism stuff, but if you want to be a left libertarian, I think you should be able to. And if you want to be a libertarian fascist, I think you should be able to. That's another thing I really don't say I would agree with too much. If you're a libertarian Marxist, that's one of the lists. I don't think you should be. I would consider that libertarian, but you should consider whatever you want, libertarian, whatever you want, I guess. Then we have a list of traditional libertarian resources 1 from Chi-Town 20 across from the New Left Libertarian subreddit, and that is just a list of of sources, and I like what Incruente says. Most of these tend to lean heavily in one direction. I mean, it is a crosspost from the left libertarian subreddit, but the thing is that left libertarianism is left libertarians are trying to co-opt the entire movement on Reddit. So even though libertarians seems right-wing fascist elsewhere, they're still trying to somehow co-opt it for their means. Like everyone tries to co-opt any word they want for their means, and that's just kind of the world we live in. Everyone feels entitled to the words of. To words as they understand them, not how people understand them. Not how people understand them. Then we have, but communism killed 100 million people from Chi-Town 20 across was from the r/socialism subreddit, and I posted Never News resist the mainstream just tweet Chi-Town's face reveal, and I thought that was funny because it's the guy with an Antifa shirt and a chocolate cake with a hammer and sickle on it, and he looks kind of like an average Redditor, kind of like, lives in his basement, probably considers questioning the interior of all fascism, stuff like that. You know, and we have I Can't Die Like This. Video shows trans man beaten by deputy during stop from the LA Times from Flimsy Out 5563. And I agree, we shouldn't be justifying beating people up if they're not violating the NAP. Culture matters more than politics. The UK has been run by quote-unquote conservatives for the past 13 years straight, and they have not conserved anything except their salary increases. From Zuby on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, agreed, stuff like elections are really overstated. People aren't going to follow someone if they disagree with them regardless of the position that they hold. So it's like, you can be president, but that doesn't mean people who didn't vote for you are going to accept. Look at how the Republicans are treating Biden and the Democrats treat Trump during his term. It's just because you win an election. I think elections, they do matter from kind of a cultural perspective, but I don't think they matter really from a government perspective, because the people are going to do what they want regardless. I think the country will mostly run itself, and you kind of see that when it comes to governance. People just run themselves regardless. Then we have RFK Jr. testifies about censorship after Democrats try and censor him from base politics, and I posted that, and I said, just goes to show you how deep into censorship territory we are. They're censoring a hero about censorship. The Dems are so deep in censorship, they only push for it on a hearing on censorship. Think about that. They just want to censor all dissent, and they're becoming increasingly open about it, and that's why we can't let them do that. We need to stand up and fight for free speech. Then we have the Federal Reserve is building the financial equivalent of the Death Star. Central bank digital currency, CBDC, corrupts money into a tool for coercion and control. Congress must swiftly ban and criminalize any effort to design, build, develop, test, or establish a CBDC. From Warren Davidson on Twitter. And I said CBDCs can suck it. His post was it was an Indeed link. Senior crypto architect for the central bank digital currency requested by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. So this is how bad it's getting. You'll have the social credit system. You won't be able to send at all, and you'll see how that goes. You'll lose social credit, and if you don't have enough social credit, you'll only be allowed to say the correct things, or you won't be able to live at all. This is how bad it's getting. Then we have. Is it time to get rid of the title of president? And I posted that. It's a self-post. I said, I would say so. If I ever got elected to the position, I would just get rid of the title. It has taken on an innately authoritarian connotation, and as of all government titles to some extent. Since all titles seem to inevitably take on an authoritarian connotation, I would replace them with nothing. You could just call the person whatever title you want to. And I said, at the tail end of the 18th century, it made sense to have a decentralized government. That is not so as we rapidly approach the middle of the 21st century. Decentralization or bust. You shall not crucify Americans upon a cross of centralization. So I think we got to get rid of all the centralization, and everyone can have their own president or whatever they'll call them, and we'll just have that. Everyone can have their own free association for everyone else, and we won't have a centralized system. I think the centralized system is the big thing we need to get rid of, but that seems like the direction we're headed into, the centralized system. It's time to end one-size-fits-all government. Then we have ALSDE. Employee, former chair of anti-abortion group, arrested for child sex abuse from ALReporter.com, from Kage blah blah blah, and that is just kind of an agenda post, but I guess that's par for the course on Reddit. Then we have Ron DeSantis threatens Anheuser-Busch over Bud Light marketing campaign with Dylan Mulvaney from CBSNews.com, and I definitely think that's a bit too far. I don't like when governments try and force people to do things they don't want to. If private corporations, normally they're in bed together, but I don't think the government should be forcing their standards onto the private corporations, because private corporations can be authoritarian as well. Just look at big pharma and big tech and big media, for example. Then we have, for the life of me, I can't understand how a degree from Harvard is still considered prestigious. These professors are absolute morons. At Brad Palumbo covers their latest plan to ruin the country, from Hannah Cox on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, That the story is about how they want to say Joe Biden should just disregard the rulings of the Supreme Court, like it's the 1820s, 1830s, and he's Andrew Jackson in regards to the Trail of Tears, you know. So I said, you know, people tend to think that their party will only ever be in power. Look how the Dems turned against the two-thirds majority under Obama, and how that came back to bite them in the ass in regards to the Supreme Court. And I also said, the U.S. government would be much improved if having a degree from an Ivy League university was a disqualifying factor. When Donald Trump can get one, you know it's not something you should be proud of. At the very least, not as much as a degree from any other university. Elon Musk also has two Penn degrees as well. I know what reference about him, and how a lot of the things about him is he's trying to rebrand Twitter to X. And, you know, that's, you know, the thing is that all the presidents in my lifetime, with the exception of Biden, have a non-honorary degree from an Ivy League school. The schools are viewed as being very prestigious, and a lot of people who graduate from them almost feel entitled to rule over others. Such is the case of the prototypical Ivy League president, Woodrow Wilson. Wilson was the only president to have a PhD, and also to have been president of an Ivy League school. It's why the American people were so eager to give him power. He was seen as a progressive intellectual, and who certainly looked the part. He obviously knew what he was doing. It's also why he historically has been rated highly by academics, and if it wasn't for his racism, I bet you he still would be. His policies are still constantly enough upheld by the neoliberal establishment of today. Foreign intervention to make the world safe for democracy, a strong central bank, and justification of the income tax come to mind. Of course, these policies have shown that they are extremely flawed and are responsible for a lot of the turmoil that we see today, but the Ivy League elites will probably still justify them. After all, one of their own was the Arctic. So that's the thing, you know. People of the Ivy League think they have the mandate to rule over others, but that's not true. Even if democracy gives them the mandate to rule over others, no one gives people the right to rule over you. So that's why I don't like the Ivy League. They're all entitled to rule over you, and they all think their policies are correct as they have the history and the prestige, and that's not true. The people can give whoever they want history and the prestige, and that just because an institution like Harvard or the New York Times has historical prestige doesn't mean it should be given prestige automatically by people who don't want to give it prestige. Then we have Project Bliss and the Rise of Christian Nationalism from Slayer 9111. And, yeah, I definitely agree. Christian nationalism is kind of bad. You know, I think nationalism is any kind of bad because nationalism is inherently collectivist, and I think that's my big problem with Christian nationalism. It's inherently collectivist. I'm more of a Christian. I lean more to Christian anarchy myself, and yeah, I think that's something that I personally would be against Christian nationalism. I think we're gonna wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.